Thank you for tuning in for today's episode of the Rise Crypto Show. And today's guest is JP Richardson, who is a co-founder and CEO of Exodus.io. For those of you who are unfamiliar with what Exodus is a cryptocurrency wallet that is available on desktop and mobile. Now, if this just happens to be your first time ever watching any of my videos, I do encourage you to explore my channel. Make sure you subscribe, smash that like button, hit the notification bell so you can stay up to date with my videos as they come out. Also, I encourage everybody to check out my Patreon channel where I post up exclusive content, and it's also a way for you to support what I do directly. I'm going to have links down below, and we're just going to go ahead and get right into today's show. All right, ladies and gentlemen, joining me on today's show is JP Richardson, and he is the CEO of Exodus.io, which is one of my favorite cryptocurrency wallets. And before we actually get into everything, I was going to say, when I got involved in crypto in early 2017, my very first wallet that I used was Coinbase, and we'll explain the difference in between different types of wallets. And then I started using a mobile wallet called Blockchain, and then I discovered my very first desktop wallet, which was Exodus. So I've been a long time Exodus user. And JP, I really appreciate you accepting the invite to come on the show. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me on the show.
And I do appreciate your time because, again, this is, I am sponsored by a mobile wallet, Monarch, and but I don't look at that as being competitive because I think that people need to utilize more than one technology that's out there and different services for different reasons. And so I guess before we get into the whole interview, do you mind giving everybody a little bit of a background as to who you are and how you got involved in crypto?
Yeah, absolutely. So I live in Nebraska, middle of the United States, and I have a background in engineering. And so way back in 2011 is when I started noticing Bitcoin and kind of paying attention to Bitcoin. I was always really interested in the liberty movement with Ron Paul, and Bitcoin finally captured like the essence of the combination of technology and liberty kind of in one nice package. And so 2011 is when I kind of identified this, but it was around 2013 where I was starting to think like, okay, how can I contribute to this movement? And one of the ways that I thought that I could contribute was by building a mobile user-friendly wallet. And so I quit my day job as an engineer at a biotech company in 2014, February of 2014. And I set out to build a mobile wallet. And the mobile wallet, the name was called CoinBolt. And if you Google for some images, you'll probably see it.
Okay.
And so I remember I was out in San Francisco kind of showing people CoinBolt and letting them see like, yeah, this is what I've been building. And it's really user-friendly and everything. And I was at a Bitcoin meetup, and this person came up to me. He's like, "Hey, JP, I got to tell you, CoinBolt looks like a kindergartner designed it." I'm like, "Oh God, you're right. It looks like shit." And so that's when I realized that I cannot build good-looking products on my own. And so ultimately, I met my co-founder Daniel, also in Nebraska, and over in the course of 2015, we decided to build Exodus.
Okay. Very cool. And I mean, you guys have, as we were talking before we started, you guys have been in a world of regulation and uncertainty with coming regulation and everything. You guys have been doing your best to make sure you're providing the best for the cryptocurrency community. And like you were mentioning earlier, the name just kind of says it all. If you just, look up the definition of the word Exodus, if you don't already know what it means, and it'll give you an idea of, what the vision would be when this thing was started. And you guys started out, so you said you started out with a crappy mobile wallet, and then you built the desktop wallet. You didn't go with the mobile route. And it took several years to kind of get to that point. What would you say? And I know on desktop, it's pretty much available for all different operating systems, and it's available on Apple as well as Google for mobile. But what are the big differences between desktop and the mobile? And then also, what are the pros and cons of connecting those two?
Yeah, good question. So I'll roll back to talk a little bit about our motivations first. So first of all, you said it best. Exodus is an escape from the traditional financial system. That's what we're about, and that's what we want to create. We want to create this world where people can have these products and they can control their own finance, their own money, and we can chat a little bit about that later. But essentially, so we started with the desktop product knowing that we hated custodial solutions, but we wanted to be able to speculate on assets. And so what happened was, I think I was buying Dash or Darkcoin on some exchange a while back, and I was speculating on it. It was a lot of fun. And we realized that, like, if we were to build a non-custodial solution, we could start with a desktop wallet that could package in all of the access to all these different assets and then bundle in trading. People might find it really useful. Because at this moment in time, we also believe that most of the exchanging and trading was actually happening on the desktop. So that's why we started with the desktop product, and we wanted to build it up from there. Now, the mobile is a kind of a natural extension to that. Naturally, people want their money on the go. And so the world that we want to create non-custodial products that allow you to control your own money in a way that it feels like it's actually a custodian product. And in other words, like when you use Capital One and you log in on your desktop and a website, and then you go to the mobile app, it's still the same Capital One account.
Right.
We want to create the product in such a way so that when you're on the go with your mobile wallet, you can still see your entire portfolio. But even better, when you're on the go, and let's say you're sitting like in a cocktail lounge or whatever, and you're looking at your portfolio, God forbid, when you leave and you're walking out and somebody puts a gun to your head, we want to build it in a secure way, in such a way that your money will not be stolen from you. And vice versa, on the desktop, if there is malware on the desktop, we don't want your money stolen from you there either. So we have to build some unique ways to combine both technologies to solve these problems and provide security from both these technologies to make it so that people's money is safe. Because new people are very still scared of crypto. I mean, when I would get in an Uber and I always ask an Uber driver, what do you think of Bitcoin? And I almost always hear, it scares me, it can be hacked or whatever, and I don't want to lose my money there. And I understand most people don't care non-custodial versus custodial, and we have to get them to care.
Well, since you said that, and that was one of the questions that I wanted to ask you, especially now that there's been regulation passed that banks in the United States can now custody cryptocurrencies for people. So when you kind of touched on it a little bit, but what is the difference from your perspective of custody versus non-custody, or custodial versus non-custodial?
Yeah, I think the biggest is that when you put your money in a custodial solution, and so an example of a custodial solution is Binance or Coinbase. And when you put your money in there, that means that ultimately Binance or Coinbase has control of all of your money. Now, yes, your name is stamped in a database saying that you have that money, but let's say if, God forbid, they get hacked, your money's at risk. Fortunately, Binance was hacked and Binance was able to cover it, but we're all familiar with the Mt. Gox hack and how much money was stolen and all the exchange hacks that happened there. So you really put your money at risk when you use these custodial solutions, and you give them permission, the owners of these custodial solutions, you give them permission as to what you can do with your money, where you can send it, when you can withdraw it. And it feels very similar to the same vein of the traditional financial ecosystem, that, things are only open at certain points in time. What's happening with your money? Where's it going? Things like that. And in the non-custodial realm, you have complete control, 100% control. Now, today, with that control comes the responsibility, of course, of, keeping your 12-word secret phrase safe. And I know that's a pain in the ass for a lot of people. And that's why it's so important to simplify the non-custodial solutions so that people don't have to think about the burden of being the custodian of their own assets. So non-custodial versus custodial ownership all comes down to control of or access to the money.
I totally agree. And people in other countries in the United States have experienced this within their own financial systems, within their own banks. So, but that makes it very interesting for people to think about. You know, I say this all the time. We talk about in the cryptocurrency community, be your own bank. But when it really comes down to it, most people don't want to take that responsibility. If you have banks everywhere around you, which we pretty much do, that's it, most developed nations all around Europe, you know, here, they don't need it. It's the people in like Africa or South America or Asian countries that don't even have access to banking, that be your own bank is very important. But taking responsibility and having, like when I mentioned earlier, my first wallet was Coinbase. Coinbase is a custody wallet. And once I understood the difference between custody and non-custody, I moved my funds out of there. I used it for a particular purpose. And when I was done using it for its purpose, I moved it outside the wallet. So I would have control of my funds. And I was using the blockchain wallet, which was, I had my private keys. And then I started using Exodus. I had my private keys. So for people that don't know a lot about cryptocurrency, what are private keys?
Yeah, good question. So a lot of times people have this misconception that the coins, you know, if you have a Bitcoin in your non-custodial wallet, that the coins are kind of in your wallet. When in reality, the coins are actually stored on the blockchain. Is kind of a way to think of it. The private keys is your way to cryptographically prove your ownership to those coins and allows you to transfer those coins to another party. And so the private keys are what governs the access to your coins.
That's a great, simple explanation too, man. I love that. You probably have said that so many times that you've got that down. But I really, like I said earlier, before we started, I've got a lot of new subscribers and I'm starting to get out of the echo chamber and I'm getting people that are asking questions. And for people that are excited about Exodus, we're going to get into some intermediate stuff and stuff that's a little bit more advanced. But I wanted to try to give people just a basic understanding of the importance of custody and non-custody versus non-custody and the importance of private keys. So you'll hear in the crypto community, we have lots of mottos. Not your keys, not your crypto. And that would be what that means. So if you've ever heard that, that's what that means. So how, another question I wanted to ask you was, and I've got several questions, but who does Exodus use as an exchange? And since you have an exchange and you're also offering DeFi elements, how would KYC possibly come to play in the future with Exodus, if it does at all?
Yeah, so with the exchange, basically the way that Exodus works is that Exodus itself does not do the exchanges. We actually have third-party partners that actually are the ones that do the exchanges. One of probably the biggest third-party partner or provider of the exchanges that most people are probably familiar with is Changelly, and these exchanges are all licensed in their respective bodies and the jurisdictions that they reside in. And they actually themselves have certain KYC policies that they provide for these exchanges that can happen. In DeFi itself, we have seen a movement where it allows people to seamlessly access some of these, what you would see as a traditional service in the case like, let's take Compound. A lot of people are familiar with the website compound.finance. And so Compound allows a person to deposit money into a smart contract in a money market and get a return on that money. And so it's just a seamless integration to allow people to access these traditional services. And so that's a path that is very interesting to us in the same vein of this non-custodial offerings that we have. Okay,
and it totally makes sense as far as how you guys are partnering with other exchanges and such. I mean, and that's what makes it interesting about having kind of these wallets that you and Monarch have, is that it gives a place for the community to kind of be together, a lot of different services to kind of come together in one place, which makes it a lot easier for people. And when we talk about DeFi, we're talking about what we call decentralized finance, and the traditional finance system that we're talking about, which is our banking institutions that everybody's used to, you would call centralized finance. And centralized finance would mean that they have control of what they do. But in a decentralized version, is kind of taking that third party out of the equation and allowing for people to be able to do it in a different but similar manner. And it's just kind of another form of another exodus, which is, I mean, that's what crypto is all about ultimately, or at least that's what it started out to be.
Mm-hmm.
I think the ecosystem has changed a lot, and I think a lot of people are really in this now for purely money. And I've been seeing a lot of older people in the space who would have come more from that Liberty Ron Paul aspect, who are now creating white papers for central bank digital currencies and creating smart contracts to keep the SWIFT system relevant. And I'm like, well, why are we doing this? Like, why are we keeping this old system relevant? But, you know, I'm trying to re-inspire that next generation of liberty-minded, Ron Paul loving crypto people, because we need to have that back.
We have to build a seamless transition, and that's the hard part, is to make it so easy so that, you know, you can have your traditional banks and then allow people to experiment with this new ecosystem that we live in and love. And today it's still not that as simple as it should be, but we're getting there, and we will get there. I think within a couple of years, as an ecosystem, we're going to be there where you can easily move money in and out of traditional finance into, you know, decentralized finance, and you can experiment with these decentralized finance services and get a full wide range of different services that would cover what was traditionally seen as traditional finance.
And that's a perfect segue for me to ask you about the fact that you told me earlier you guys are going to be adding a feature that will allow users to choose whether or not they would like to add and link their bank account. Can you talk a little bit about that, when you guys are thinking about releasing it, and how that would work, especially in regards to KYC? Because I know if we're dealing with banks, that would have to come into play.
Yeah, absolutely. So today, or actually we found that people would download Exodus Wallet, and you would have to have crypto already to take advantage of Exodus Wallet. And that's fine, you know, but it just means that you have to go use some other service like Coinbase or an exchange like Kraken or whatever, and
Right.
then move your crypto out of that into Exodus to start experiencing Exodus. So we wanted to make it seamless for people to just get started right away. And we started with the iOS mobile app. And for those of you that have Exodus on the iOS, and in jurisdictions where it's permitted, like the United States, many states are allowed, but you can actually go to inside the iOS app, and you can go to the settings section. You'll see a big button that says Buy Bitcoin, and this works today in many states and many countries around the world. And then what you can do is you can use Apple Pay to buy a small amount of Bitcoin to get started. Now it feels kind of like a KYC-less experience. It mostly is, but some KYC is actually happening behind the scenes with the Apple Pay and then the provider that we use, Wire, behind the scenes in that connection there. And it's just a small amount of, you know, email and phone number and things like that. And so that really simplifies access to getting cryptocurrency and Bitcoin. And this is the mobile app. Now, after that, we have a plan to be able to link your bank account to Exodus using Plaid and another service called Prime Trust. And in that service, we have to do, Prime Trust does full KYC to access that service and to allow you to buy cryptocurrency with dollars in your bank account.
Okay, very cool. And like, do you have any type of tentative date when you guys are thinking about the desktop and the linking of banks being available to people?
We still have a lot of work to do here, and to make the user experience just feel, you know, as everybody knows or probably knows, is that we really care about the user experience. And so we won't release anything unless it works really well. And then also there's a security element here. If people's bank accounts are going to be linked up, got to make sure this stuff is really secure. And so the security review and the user experience review is something that we're doing currently right now. And so I anticipate it'll still be a while before people get access to that. But people can access today, at least on the mobile app in iOS, the purchase of Bitcoin with Apple Pay. That is available today.
I mean, that is a pretty cool idea, using that kind of backdoor with the Apple Pay thing. I think that's pretty ingenious. Can you not do that with Google Pay too, though?
Apparently, it's my understanding that there's some concerns with fraud with Google Pay. We're still looking at that, and we're trying to make that work, but there's still some concerns with Google Pay yet.
I'm not a fan of Google, but I'm just thinking of like just the alternative for Android users.
Oh yeah, I mean, Android users, we would love to get our Android users using this for sure.
I used to be an iPhone user, and then years ago I just switched over, and I mean, I may eventually go back to using an iPhone. They are getting back to being a little bit more better than they were, I think, in my own opinion. But
pick your poison. But the one thing I respect about Apple, well, first of all, the design aspect and their user experience, but I feel like they have more they care more about privacy. At least they say they care more. I mean, maybe it's all.
Well, and it's also a strenuous process to get an application added. You know, they just don't let anybody add, where I think anyone can add stuff on the Android Play Store or Google Play Store, and that gives the opportunity of people getting malware and stuff. So, I mean, the iPhone I do look at as being a more protected, more encrypted phone versus Android, but I just like the features of Android better, and I'm willing to sacrifice it right now, unfortunately. It's kind of sad, but it's kind of where I'm at.
I understand completely. I mean, I love the iPhone. I've been using it for a while now, and I'll probably stick with it for a while. And
but
I
it's
think
the 11. The 11's out, right?
Yes. Yeah, I think it's that.
Yeah, that one looks pretty nice. But I've got I'm currently using a Note 10 Plus, which is like the Cadillac of the Samsung phones that are out right now. So it's pretty sweet. I like it.
Nice.
And speaking of the kind of the internet and all that as well, I'm curious when you guys are going to add a Web 3.0 browser or some type of extension where people can access dApps and different Web 3 websites directly through the wallet. Is that coming possibly?
Great point. We have no plans for a Web 3 browser. And then the reason for that is we think that building access to smart contracts and Web 3 dApps is that it should be done in an experience that is very more familiar and intuitive to customers. So what we've started with is we have our own, you could call it like an Exodus app store, and we've started building integrations ourselves. And so the first integration that we have, as I mentioned, is we have Compound. Mm-hmm. And so it allows our customers to receive interest on their DAI deposits. And then we recently just added access to SportX, which is an Ethereum smart contract for betting. And now, unfortunately, we have to, due to contract relations that we have with SportX, we do have to block the United States in some jurisdictions from accessing this. But it does still allow, for those that can, they can access it and they can engage in sports betting and, like I said, in relevant jurisdictions.
Well, over time, real quick, I would say that that's actually very relevant because my audience is about 45% United States, and I've got a lot of people in Europe, England, Australia. So some of these countries, these services might be available. So it's definitely pertinent information. I just wanted to, it's not falling on just US ears here.
Good. Yeah, and so over time, we're going to add access to more applications, more smart contracts, more dApps via these custom integrations, and give our customers a top-notch experience. I mean, again, that's always the guiding light for us, the top-notch experience. We found that these Web3 browsers, like if you use Chrome, and I hate to call out some of the browsers or the extensions like MetaMask, but the user experience there is just not up to snuff.
No, it's not.
It's like you click on something and you have this long string of things you don't understand what it means. You're like, I hope this is what I want, and you just kind of click and pray. And so we're just trying to build a better experience. Now, over time, we might find that Web3 in a Web3 browser, and that whole notion of this is the way to go because it's so much more mature, and then we can help to guide this path. But right now, it's all about user experience and making the best user experience for customers.
And I mean, I can personally attest. I mean, since I've been a user for now about 3 years, um, I would say that I've seen a big change and a lot of development. And anytime I've ever had any problems, I've gone on to Slack, I think is what it was. I've dealt with several people that helped me out because I would have issues with Monero. Like it looked like my Monero disappeared and I didn't know how to get it to reset the blockchain so everything would come back up. Had a question about the Bitcoin Cash hard fork when all that took place. And you guys have made it very seamless and very easy in that experience for a new user at the time for me. So I appreciate that because it was about, I don't know, it might have been about 3 years, this time period that Bitcoin Cash was forked. I think it was around August.
Yep, that's right. It was about in August. Yeah.
So yeah, this would be that same old time period. And I didn't know what the hell I was doing in crypto at that time. So I was thankful I didn't have to go to, you know, some random wallet and have to try to put my private key in and hope that I was able to still keep my Bitcoin while I get my Bitcoin Cash. It was very scary. And that's what ultimately led me to want to start, you know, doing my content. And then in addition to crypto, I talk about things like anarchy and voluntarism and economics. And past couple months I've been branching out, talking about some things that people would consider to be conspiracy theory or woo woo. But it's helped me to branch out. And there's a lot of people in those communities that have heard about Bitcoin and cryptocurrency that just don't really know a lot. So it's given me an opportunity to help provide them with information and some education so that they can empower themselves and make better choices for them and their families, which it's a good thing that when you can, you know, I'm sure you feel very blessed to be able to provide this type of service to people and you're not charging anybody either. Which is the other thing. It's completely free.
We try to make this stuff seamless and easy to use. And I remember the Bitcoin Cash hard fork, and that was early on. That was pretty nasty. But I think within short period of time after it happened, we were able to build a way so that people could just seamlessly claim their Bitcoin Cash. And we started doing this with other hard forks, and it just made it real easy on our customers. And so it's always been something that we're really thinking about is like, how can we just make this easy? And then to your point on customer service, yeah, our customer service, we pride ourselves on delivering, you know, not only customer service, you know, 24/7, but fast. So if you write in, you should get a response typically within a few minutes from a real person. I mean, our customer service team now, I believe, I don't know the exact number, but I think it's around 15 people or so that are just staffed on customer service.
A friend of mine used Anastasia.
Yeah,
she worked for you guys.
Yeah, she was with our customer service team for a while. Yeah,
she turned me. She was one of the first people I met in the crypto space, and she's also an anarchist. And she turned me on to a lot of things, including one of my favorite crypto projects, which is Nexus. Love to see you guys added a integration for Nexus to be able to be stored in Nexus. That would be really cool. I might have to talk to you about that now that I'm thinking about it.
Yeah.
But I also want to real quickly ask you, we talked about the difference between custodial and non-custodial, and you guys are offering an exchange service within your wallet that's not through you, but through a partner. And I'm starting to develop more of, I'll just use the word hate for centralized exchanges and so much more appreciation for these decentralized exchanges. And I'm wondering, you know, I can tell with your kind of demeanor that you would probably prefer to use a decentralized exchange, but you're not because it doesn't have quite the liquidity. But do you see you guys going in a direction of using a decentralized exchange in the future for the exchange services in Exodus when that liquidity is there, or some sort of protocol can be created to link between all the different dexes to figure out the best way to do this, or maybe work with Komodo and, you know, with their atomic swaps and all this good stuff?
I see a future where centralized exchanges, their days are numbered. That today, yes, they have a lot of liquidity, and yes, today, if you want to get good prices and stuff, that's the place to be for sure. In time, we will see a future where you can get those same services in completely a decentralized manner, and it may all be powered on Ethereum, it may be powered on some other blockchain. Who knows? But what we're seeing right now is in Ethereum, there's these synthetic assets being created. You've seen synthetic Bitcoin being created on Ethereum, whether it's
wrap Bitcoins and things.
Yep, that's exactly right. There's WBTC, there's a TBTC initiative, and then there's RenBTC. And so all of these initiatives are trying to recreate Bitcoin on Ethereum by pegging it either in a decentralized manner or in a kind of a one-to-one custodial manner. But they're still creating Bitcoin on Ethereum. So you could imagine that same technique being used for any other asset, and it could really, again, be any kind of blockchain. And then you can imagine these decentralized protocols being used to trade these assets. And as long as the trade happens, whether it's synthetic Monero, synthetic Dash, whatever that trade happens on these protocols, at the very end of it, if you have that synthetic Dash or synthetic Monero, and then you can go redeem it for real Dash or real Monero, it doesn't matter then, like that would happen with the actual assets or not. It just matters that you can, at the end of the day, when you want the real asset, you can get the real asset.
Yeah.
But the exchange can all happen through synthetic assets. So we absolutely see that future, and that's the future that we want to build. And so we have already started actually with the integration of Uniswap. And so that's happening behind the scenes. We're doing some tests with Uniswap. And so we're really excited to get that out. Now, when a customer does an exchange with Uniswap, it still won't be obvious, like in the exchange, that this exchange is happening with Uniswap. It'll just feel seamless, like you're exchanging one asset for the other, and you won't know whether it happened to Uniswap or Changelly or some other partner, or you just won't know. But it will still be done in a seamless manner.
Now, when it does something like that, though, does it pick whichever exchange has the lowest price at the time?
That's how we optimize today. Is that we optimize. So today, the way that we have is we have an exchange aggregator software, and so behind the scenes there are, I believe, 7 providers. And the way we optimize today is we pick by prices. Now, over time, we will modify that optimization to be as far as like prices, fulfillment time, error rate, and all sorts of different factors and variables to make sure that the exchange experience is, again, the best that it can be for the customer. But today it is prices only.
Okay, cool, man. And I appreciate you explaining it like that. And, I let people, I wanted to explain the difference between this, because in the traditional stock market, we're seeing a lot of manipulation take place. And in the centralized exchanges, you're seeing the same thing take place, with people reporting fake volumes, bots, and all this kind of different things that don't let you see an actual accurate thing, display of what's actually occurring. You're seeing a lot of falseness being mixed in with it, which makes it difficult. And I think if you look at all the exchanges and all the trades that are being done, it totally exceeds the amount of cryptocurrencies that actually exist, which that should be a big indicator right there. And so right now, at this time period where we're at in, because today is the 29th of July, and I'm going to be releasing this either tomorrow and today is Thursday. No, today's Wednesday. Today's Wednesday. I've been working really hard. So today's Wednesday. It's either coming out Thursday or Friday. We've been seeing a lot of recent price action take place, gains all over the board. We're currently in the midst of a tailspin of a financial crisis. The dollar is losing purchasing power. A lot of things that are in question as to when this thing's going to crash, and everything's just the bottom's going to fall out. How long can they keep this thing going? You're seeing the safe haven assets like gold and silver, they're going up. You're seeing cryptocurrency go up. I don't know how much you'd like to talk about price action, but being that you've been involved in exchanges and things like that, do you mind kind of sharing like where you see like Bitcoin and maybe some of the other cryptocurrencies maybe by the end of this year or by the end of 2021?
Yeah, great question. So it's been a wild year, as everybody knows and has experienced. But for us, it was the middle of March when everything crashed. You know, the stock market crashed. Bitcoin, I think Bitcoin fell 50 to 60 some percent in one day. And so for us, that was a moment of like, wow, what kind of trouble are we going to see ahead? What kind of turbulence are we going to experience? And we knew that the Fed would react in the way that they would in terms of like, kind of just print money. Still thought though that there would still be kind of a lot of turbulence ahead. And I think that was a little bit of a naive approach, given that the Fed is just, they're not going to let the stock market crash.
They've made it clear though. They've made it clear in news on all these different press reports and speeches that they haven't even begun to go into their toolbox yet, and they will make sure the stock market does not go down. So I mean, not financial advice, but knowing that you could make some money in the stock market.
You can. And so I just, because I'm really interested in markets all around, and crypto markets and traditional markets and whatever. I of course, I signed up or I already had a Robinhood account, but I had never actually done any kind of options trading. And so I got into options trading on shorting, the S&P 500. And I was certain, I was absolutely certain, my bet was placed that Q2 and, end of June, that Q2, that in the earnings reports of July, that we would see a number of companies producing just abysmal earnings. And I was certain that things were gonna, just kind of go down. And so I placed a number of shorts, thinking that would happen. And I remember talking to my co-founder too. I'm like, look, if this stuff happens, Bitcoin is probably going to go along with it. It's going to be bad and bloody. And I should have known by Fed policy, and exactly like you said, what Jay Powell, Federal Reserve Chairman, has been saying, like, they're not going to let it happen. And that's exactly what we're seeing. They're not letting it happen. They keep buy. They're buying stocks, they're buying bonds, they're buying ETFs, they're buying everything. The stock market is not going to crash.
All the while, we've got record number unemployment.
Yes, and it's crazy. It
makes no sense.
It's insane. But here's the opportunity. The golden opportunity here is that people can now, in this ecosystem, can use this as an opportunity to build, and build the services to integrate with the traditional financial system, build quickly, so that when that does happen within the next couple of years, because I'm sure it's going to happen whenever, maybe it's 2 years, maybe it's 4 years, who knows, we'll be more ready. Because if we didn't recover, if the traditional financial ecosystem did not recover, I think we would be in dark times for a while.
Well,
so
I was going to say, even if everybody flocked to Bitcoin right now, we're not set to handle the world to come right now.
No, we're not even close to ready. So we got to get the Lightning Network, in tip-top shape. We got to get Ethereum scaling, ETH 2.0. Come on, Vitalik, get it going. Let's get that launched, and let's get ready, because it will happen at some point in time, and we want to be ready for the world, as you said. So yeah, to close out the year, I've kind of turned into more of a bull. I think close to the presidential election, we'll see a little bit of turbulence. Close to the presidential election, I think ending the year, depending upon what Congress does with benefits, for the unemployment, we may see more turbulence. But Federal Reserve, like you said, they've shown and they've said that they are just going to buy, and everybody. If you're in the stock market, you're going to get rich. If you're American, you're going to get rich, and then that's what's going to happen. At least the way I see it from the Federal Reserve.
I agree, and the one thing I will say that I would never say this normally, that I do appreciate that the Fed is doing, is that they're helping us in the crypto space who try to teach people about deflationary currencies versus inflationary currencies. They're just giving us just a perfect example of what Bitcoin and other decentralized cryptocurrencies are not. And I also want to circle back around when you said something about scaling. I believe there are some cryptocurrencies that are out there that are kind of prepared for it. And that's one of the reasons why I'm really bullish on Nexus. If you haven't really looked into Nexus, I would encourage you to, and I can introduce you to their chief architect. His father is one of the co-founders of SpaceX. And
Oh,
he's an amazing cryptographer. Gavin Andreessen's was one of their advisors. His father had been working with created vector rockets and satellites, and their overall idea that they're shooting for by 2024 is to have some satellites in space to work with ground technology to create a decentralized mesh network. They've also are in the process of creating a 3D blockchain so that it could also help it with quantum resistance in addition to. So there's a lot of really cool things that these guys are doing. But as far as, they're also proof of work and proof of stake. So it's a hybrid system. And it's got a really interesting way that works to help with the security. If you had the Nexus wallet downloaded onto your desktop and I came over to your house, I could log into it with my username, password, and PIN number. So they've got a really easy setup kind of going. And I think that when we start seeing things like Ethereum start to not catch up and kind of like all this hype kind of starts to kind of come, because I think it's a little bit more hype because it's not quite ready for the scaling yet. It's not. And with all the enterprise Ethereum alliance that's involved and all those traditional companies, they're going to want it to work. But that's where I think someone like Nexus, who doesn't have the Tron marketing money, but has the technology that I think surpasses a lot of different projects, but also it's not trying to replace other projects either. I mean, I think that they're working on cross-chain implementations more so than just wrap things. I think cross-chain is so much more important. That's why I like a project like Komodo as well, which Komodo may be partnering with Nexus in some aspects and some decentralized exchanges that deal with atomic swaps and things like that. And that goes back to some very liberty-minded people as well.
yeah,
All the
absolutely.
people I just mentioned, it's all the same A and V, the anarchists and voluntarists that are here to help be that change that we want to see in this world.
Absolutely.
Well, dude, I really honestly enjoyed this, man. I guess before we wrap things up, did you have anything that you wanted to add that I didn't ask you or that you wanted to cover?
I think that, I mean, it seems like we're in a short-term, at least short-term bull market. I hope this bull market continues. It's super exciting. If anybody out there is interested in joining the movement that we're building, we would love for you to reach out and get a hold of us. You can go to our careers page, which is exodus.io/careers, and you can see we are hiring. So reach out to us, shoot us an application and let us know more about yourself, and join us and help us build this better future financial system that we want to, this decentralized financial system that we want to create and we desperately need to create.
Beautiful, man. And I'll definitely have links down below so people can check out everything that we talked about in today's episode. And I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I definitely want to, bring you back on when we have some more changes and some things to talk about. And I do want to talk to you for a second afterwards. So if you don't mind, just hanging on for 1 second before I wrap things up. But like I said, I'm going to have links down below, ladies and gentlemen. I do appreciate you watching. And if this happens to be your first time ever checking out any of my content, I do encourage you to explore my channel, see what I'm all about. If you like what I'm doing, I would encourage you to subscribe to my channel. If you like this video, hit that thumbs up. Hit the notification bell so you can stay up to date with my videos as they come out. Check out my Patreon channel where I post up exclusive content, and it's a way that you can support what I do directly. Also follow me on Library, because you never know when my YouTube channel is just going to get cut off. And I also post up extra content there as well. And that is the most decentralized content sharing publishing platform out there that I can find. And with that being said, I encourage you as always to be the change by practicing change.